Well, hello there. You are watching the press preview, a first look at what is on the front pages. Time then to see what is making the headlines with the political editor of the Daily Mirror, Pippa, Crerar, and the Home Affairs editor at The Times, Matt Dathan. Both of them with us from now until just before midnight, and welcome to both of you. Front pages then, let's have a look, shall we? And with temperatures forecast to hit or exceed 40 degrees Celsius on Tuesday, the Metro warns get ready for the hottest day ever. Here's how the Telegraph sums up the situation. Record highs, travel chaos, schools close, and it's going to get hotter. The Sun also leads with the heat wave, stating that Britain is melting. The Eye takes a wider view, highlighting the overall impact on the climate. Their headline, Earth sends a warning. The Guardian points out that Boris Johnson missed an emergency meeting about the heat. The Star shows a police officer helping one of the Queen's Guards to take a drink of water, quipping, "And you thought you were having a bad day." The Times focuses on the Conservative leadership battle, saying that the race to be Prime Minister has been thrown wide open. The Daily Mail centres on what it says is Penny Mordaunt's stagnating leadership bid, claiming that her campaign has hit the buffers. And the Financial Times has a story concerning the chip maker arm. Well, a reminder that by scanning the QR code you'll see on screen during the programme, you can check out the front pages of tomorrow's newspapers while you watch the programme. So let's return then to Pippa, Crerar and Matt Dathan. Matt, I don't know how hot it is at home. Thank you for joining us as the temperatures remain 26 degrees or so overnight. But many of the newspapers leading on this, including the Daily Telegraph, record highs, travel chaos, schools closed and, wait for Tuesday, I guess.
Yeah, that's right. If people thought today was hot, then tomorrow is not just going to be hotter, but considerably hotter. And some Met forecasters are saying it could even reach 43 degrees, which would be quite incredible. And there's a 95% chance, the Telegraph says on its front page, of us beating that record that was set back in 2019. Today it reached a record of, I think it was at 38.1 degrees in Suffolk. And I think it could actually be hotter in the north of England than actually in London, which surprised some because we were all told that London was going to reach those 40 levels tomorrow.
Yes, indeed, and the sort of the urban heat island effect is what we've heard a lot about, that it retains heat in urban centres, making it very difficult for people often who don't have gardens, I guess, as well, to escape some of it, although we're all told to stay indoors, which is not always easy. The sun there as well, Pippa. Britain is melting, and lots of questions today about, how ready we are to deal with temperatures like this, the fact this could be the new normal. And you see places like Luton Airport, the tarmac, in real trouble, including other roads as well elsewhere.
Yeah, the suggestion is that we're likely to see more temperatures, high temperatures like this in the coming years than we have done in the past. People like to hark back to the heat wave of 1976, but where there was a couple of weeks in the summer of 76 where temperatures were in the low 30s, but it was just a different order of magnitude from the high 30s and potentially 40 degree plus that we're seeing at the moment. And Britain isn't, the thing about us, and we see this in the winter when it snows heavily, is that we're actually quite a moderate climate, and we can't cope with extremes very well, mainly because the pressure isn't there for the sake of a few days a year to sort of invest in infrastructure that can withstand both extreme heat and extreme cold. And we're seeing it with probably more used to the extreme cold, but we're seeing it with the extreme heat at the moment, and not just at Luton, but RAF Rise Norton as well. They had to cancel flights taking off because of tarmac on the runway getting sticky and therefore being unsafe. We saw roads around London, out on the outskirts of London, being shut down as well for a similar reason. There was train tracks buckling. Vauxhall in London was one example, but there are others across the country. And that's before you even get started on whether operations, for example, can take place in operating theatres and hospitals, which are deemed too hot, or whether it's safe for children to be at school. We obviously don't have air conditioning in our schools for the most part. So while the vast majority of people, you've got pictures there of somebody out sunbathing, well, the vast majority of people will be, would have been taking precautions, but maybe enjoying the warmth, drinking lots of water, staying inside. If they're outside, hopefully a bit of sun cream on. There are, of course, extreme circumstances, particularly for the elderly and the very young. And people's pets as well, it has to be said, that are much, much more vulnerable in these temperatures. And I think people who have family members falling into those categories will be concerned that this heat is only going to be over, it's going to be another 48 hours, 48 hours before we get some reprieve. You keep showing pictures there, Anna, of people enjoying the heat. Of course, there's many people that are doing that as well, making the most of the summer sun. But infrastructure-wise, our country isn't particularly well equipped in the way that you might see some of our southern European neighbours dealing with these sorts of temperatures.
Yes, I mean, those pictures by a swimming pool. You know, we don't mind these temperatures if maybe we're on holiday and we can cool down in the sea or elsewhere. But if you try and go about your normal business, and you know, state schools are still open, aren't they? You know, kids going in, mine in PE kit today, for example, just to try and cool them down. And the eye here, Matt, saying the Earth is sending a warning. 95% chance that today will be Britain's hottest on record. With 40 degrees plus. In Sheffield, they say, higher than Cairo, Tehran, New Delhi, Islamabad and Dubai. And in recent years, we've seen the heat dome over northwest of North America, over India, you know, and experts today saying that actually the Northern Hemisphere needs to accept that its climate is changing and changing permanently.
Yeah, that's right. And what's actually quite worrying is the forecast for even later this summer. So Pippa was talking about the later this decade, but later this summer, the forecast is saying that heat could return. This kind of level of heat could return later this summer because of the Saharan hot air moving northwards, which is causing this heat wave. And as we were talking earlier, every 3 years it's forecast to reach 40 degrees by the end of the century, which is quite remarkable. Because I mean, I've been very bored by my parents talking about the 1976 heat wave, and now we're basically going to be hitting a record pretty much every other year. So it's going to be the norm. And what's quite incredible, Pippa touched on the lack of infrastructure, is that I'm reading about gritters being sent out. We're used to that obviously in the winter, but gritters being sent out in this heat wave. But my favourite story, I think in the Metro, was that even pigs were being doused in sun cream at the Royal Welsh Show, which I thought was quite a lovely little scene.
Yeah, their skin burns, doesn't it? I remember learning that a couple of years ago, in fact. We can't escape politics, you know, given what's happening in the world. And there is The Guardian, Pippa. Johnson accused of checking out as Britain swelters in the searing heat, missing a number of Cobra emergency meetings, although we heard Kit Malthouse today saying, you know, this is literally my job to coordinate government departments. So should he be there? Should he not? What do you think?
Well, it is absolutely the case that Prime Ministers aren't at every Cobra meeting, and nor do they need to be. But it is particularly striking because this Prime Minister has a record, of course, of not attending some of those he should attend. You'll remember, you'll cast your mind back to this half a dozen or so Cobra meetings at the beginning of the pandemic, which he wasn't at. And it does feel that it might be, if not strictly necessary for logistical reasons, then certainly a good thing for PR reasons on behalf of the government, if the Prime Minister looked like he was a bit more involved in the response to the heat wave. That as the Tory leadership contest rumbles on, it's hard to escape the feeling that the Tory party is kind of focused on the infighting and sort of internal issues, when it's not just the heat wave, of course, but there are all sorts of other issues, ambulance shortages, which predate the current escalation in the crisis during the heat wave, cost of living situation, energy crisis, partly caused by the situation abroad, which aren't really getting the sort of look in that you might want them to. And of course, Boris Johnson has been, it's been particularly highlighted over the last couple of days because he was at Chequers on Sunday having a farewell barbecue with his closest colleagues and advisors. And he was last week video which went out today, flying in a Tornado fighter jet, looking like he was having a really great time, Top Gun style. There you go, those are the pictures. Thoroughly enjoying himself. He talked about this at length when he came down to the Farnborough Air Show and spoke to business leaders, and he spoke about it again in the House of Commons in confidence vote debate later on as well. It obviously has danger for him, as it looks like he's trying to get through a bucket list of fun activities before he stands down formally in 8 weeks' time. But at the same time, the Tory party is distracted by the leadership contest, and the country is facing all of these issues which just aren't going away.
To be fair, that's some bucket list, isn't it? Those are amazing pictures, and surviving a confidence vote as well tonight. So we will see. We will move on to what you talked about there, the Conservative leadership campaign. Something else hotting up, the race to be Boris Johnson's successor. More on that after this. Well, welcome back. You're watching the press preview. With me now, Pippa Crerar and Matt Dathan. Welcome back to both of you. So let's go to the Conservative leadership contest, shall we? Tom Tugendhat eliminated today. The Financial Times has this on the front page, down the bottom there, suggesting that Liz Truss, Foreign Secretary, was last night catching up with Trade Minister Penny Mordaunt as they battled to join former Chancellor Rishi Sunak in the final stages. But the Times suggests, in fact, that the Tory race has been thrown wide open, suggesting that the contest is expected to culminate in a clash between Mordaunt and Truss for second place, but their failure to do better could open a route for Kemi Badenoch. Now, this is fascinating, isn't it? Whose votes go where? And we really are at crunch point, Pippa.
We really are. And, you know, I think depending on who you speak to and in the Conservative Party tonight and which candidate they support, you could read tonight's results one of several ways. If you are a Rishi Sunak supporter, you have solidified your lead. He's only 5 votes off now, a guaranteed place in the final runoff. Looks like a dead cert to be on the last 2 that go around the country and for the Tory members decide which then becomes Prime Minister. If you're Penny Mordaunt, well, you say that your support has held firm. She's put out a new video tonight, a much more personal video than her first one. Still sees herself as a front runner and could potentially pick up some of the support from Tom Tugendhat as the remaining, you could say, slightly liberal or slightly more liberal than the others candidates still in the race. If you're Liz Truss, you put on a few votes, you're catching up with Penny Mordaunt, but you're not quite there yet. So I think generally accepted she did better in the ITV debate on Sunday night than she did in the Channel 4 one on Friday. So possibly put on a little bit of support, but it's by no means a dead cert in the second round of this as well. And then Kemi Badenoch snapping at Liz Truss's heels. She insists that she's in it to win it, that she's planning on staying in. But I think it is certainly looks at this point as though she's the most likely to go out next time around. But a lot of it comes down, as you say, Anna, to where Tom Tugendhat's votes go. He had 31 votes tonight in the latest round of the Tory leadership contest. Which way do they break? Do they break to Penny Mordaunt as a fellow Liberal or more Liberal candidate? Do they vote to Kemi Badenoch? I spoke to one MP earlier who has previously supported Tom Tugendhat, who said they backed him because he was the change candidate. Well, Kemi Badenoch's the only change candidate left in the race, despite politically being quite different from Tom Tugendhat. So, you know, you can read this many ways. I think, you know, we're not able yet to say clearly what's going to happen. I think the one thing we can say is that over the next 48 hours, we're going to continue to see huge amounts of wrangling publicly, but possibly more than that, lots of horse trading privately as well, perhaps even offers of jobs as the remaining candidates try and win more support to get them over the line.
Yes, private horse trading and public too. Penny Mordaunt certainly tweeting about the need for a clean start and praising Tom Tugendhat. You know, a direct appeal to his USP on this one. And the Times say they've done an interview with Liz Truss, and the paper says she has issued a direct appeal to Badenoch supporters, saying that Britain faces a pivotal moment and must go for growth by cutting taxes, etc., etc. I mean, this really is fascinating, and it feels like, Matt, as if the contest has followed a predictable path so far, but may not yet in the last 2 days. What do you reckon?
I mean, all could change in the next 3 days. It's going to be quite a roller coaster of 48 hours ahead, and Wednesday evening we'll finally find out who are the remaining 2. There's voices all over the place. Nick Timothy, Theresa May's former chief of staff, has made an interesting point. He said the Conservatives really should put Rishi Sunak and Liz Truss through to the final two, because they offer the most opposing visions of Britain, Rishi Sunak being the fiscally responsible one, and Liz Truss being the really must cut taxes to fuel growth. I think the total value of her tax cuts are about 30 billion right now. But she's also, in the Times interview tomorrow, pledged to raise defence spending by 3% by the end of the decade, which is stealing Tom Tugendhat's policy. Maybe that's a overture to his 31 supporters. But we're going to come on, I think, to Daily Mail. They make a very good point.
We'll crack on with that. Yeah, go on then. Mordaunt's number 10 bid hits the buffers, and the Guardian too. Truss camp says backing for Mordaunt has peaked. Continue, Matt. Yeah.
Yeah, they make a very point right at the end of their front page that there's just 24 votes separating the three women. I mean, I can actually see a pathway for all three of them to get to the final two. And at the same time, we've got Rishi Sunak, who can basically start preparing for the next phase, which is a crucial advantage, because I don't know if they've decided yet, Pippa might know, but they the Tory party last time sent the ballots out straight away as soon as the MPs had their final say. And that meant that most Tory members actually got their vote in straight away. So Rishi Sunak can start planning for that phase.
OK, just quickly, Pippa.
I don't know what they're planning to do, but it is postal votes, as Matt said, and of course every day will count when it comes to the final two that make it through in terms of winning those up to 200,000 Tory members. And
just in a word, who's going to be? Well, if Rishi is one, who would the other be?
It could go Truss, it could go Mordaunt. Sorry, you're not going to get me to commit to that.
And Matt, you?
I'll go Penny Mordaunt.
OK,
Penny Mordaunt.
We will see, or despite what the Mail said today. Both of you, thank you ever so much. We will see you soon. Pippa and Matt, thank you.